fellas, run to your waiver wires to add these 8 to 10 guys. Some guys are going to be higher on our list. Some guys are going to be lower, but week 1 is just complete. Hope you guys won your fantasy matchups. And if you did not, then you have a higher waiver priority than most people in your league. With the first waiver wire edition in 50% of leagues, I have Hollywood Brown. Now, Hollywood Brown was tied for the number 1 receptions in week 1 again for all receivers. He had 10 receptions. I think he had like 16 targets. I think it was the highest target share of any receiver. 100 receiving yards, obviously no touchdowns. Pretty much 20 points in PPR formats. Now, that's because Xavier Worthy went down. Rashee Rice is suspended, but I have him as the number 1 priority this week because of his short-term success. I think he could win you or help you in your maybe next 1 or 2 weeks while Xavier Worthy is out, because I don't think that Juju Smith is a viable option there to play or like just to play in general for the Chiefs. So I think Hollywood is going to be their wide receiver 1 as long as Xavier Worthy's out. So if you had Xavier Worthy, maybe Drake London, who's also hurt, or if you have Rashee Rice, I think Hollywood Brown is a very viable option. I mean, 10 receptions, 16 targets, really can't go wrong with a guy like Hollywood on the Chiefs offense.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just think with Worthy being out, if Hollywood Brown could be the guy for the foreseeable future until Rashee Rice comes back. So it's one of those guys where, you pick him up now, you start him now, and you just hope you can get what you can out of him before
Worthy and Rashee come back. And we don't really know completely about Worthy. I guess it was obviously it's a shoulder injury. We don't know if he's going to have surgery or not. I guess Schefter did tweet out saying that he probably won't have surgery, probably be back within 1 or 2 weeks, which is fine. I think Hollywood's more like a short-term pick him up. Maybe he goes off again and you get, 1 good week out of Hollywood Brown. The next guy, in my opinion, I think he could have the opposite effect. I think he could be a longer-term play, and he's kind of your guy right now. Let's hear about Mr. Quentin Johnson.
Quentin Johnson had a game on Friday. 5 receptions for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think the touchdown upside has been always there for Quentin Johnston. And I think what people were worried about was just more, can he catch in the open field, because he's not very consistent as a catcher. But he looked great Friday. So he's young. It's one of those things where you can pick him up and stash him. Maybe he stays more consistent, maybe not, but he looks like the definite wide receiver too, especially from goal line or 3rd down, 4th down. Keenan Allen got a lot of production too. I mean, there's just no bad receiving options on this roster, it seems, right now. So if you can pick him up and just kind of stash him and see what happens, I would say that's definitely, in my opinion, the second guy you go after this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's the clear-cut wideout too, and I'm not saying Keenan Allen is either. I just feel like they have a very good passing attack, and I think that going into this game, they knew they wouldn't be able to run the football against the Chiefs, so they threw it. I mean, obviously Herbert went for 300-plus yards, and Quentin Johnston's kind of that deep threat, that kind of guy. He was a first-round draft pick in the NFL for a reason. 5 receptions on 80 yards is pretty much what you're going to get out of Quentin Johnston if he produces, and then the 2 touchdowns, just the cherry on top. He did have a 20.6% target share, which I think is absolutely great for week 1. A guy like Quentin Johnston, who we didn't even know if he'd see the field a lot, with the Chargers drafting receivers, bringing in Keenan Allen. Obviously, they have Ladd, but the thing that I like is 15.8 yards per reception. I think that's what you're going to have to Quentin Johnston. You're going to get like a deep play, deep threat kind of guy. So if you're pinned to, and he's only rostered in 3.8% of leagues, so he's going to be on your waiver wire. But if you're in a situation where maybe, like again, you have an injured receiver or suspended receiver and you want to throw a dart at dartboard, Quentin Johnston has a lot of high upside because of his touchdown production. Another guy that I think has a lot of upside, and just like Quentin Johnston is a longer-term play, is Harold Fannin Jr. Now, I was actually big on this guy in dynasty formats prior to the season. He led all of the CFB in receiving yards for tight ends. So he was the best, or he had the most receiving yards out of any tight end in college football last season. This year, week 1, he has 7 receptions on 9 targets and 63 receiving yards. Now, I wish this was David Njoku. I'm pretty big on David Njoku, and Njoku had his too. I think he had 2 catches for 40 yards, something like that. He had like 6 or 7 fantasy points. But 9 targets for Harold Fannin Jr. is kind of worrisome if you're a David Njoku stash holder or stockholder. And the weird thing is, this dude lined up at 5 different positions for a 20% target share. That's kind of weird to see him do that. But there's also reports that, and there was reports like in the summer, that David Njoku could be on the move, like be traded, and this kid just step up. So if you have David Njoku, or really you have another roster spot available, I would stash this kid because he looks like Joe Flacco's security blanket.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Especially that's interesting to me because I don't really have a tight end. I mean, I have Dalton Kincaid, so we'll see how that goes. But what you're saying right now makes me think like, hey, for those that don't have a tight end, maybe this is
Just pick him up and stash him,
Yeah.
because what's the worst gonna happen? You're gonna drop him next week. Like, let's think about last year. Isaiah Likely, he went off in week 1 and they really didn't do anything after that. Could that be 100%? But in week 1, this might be one of the weakest waiver wire week 1s in a long time. Like, I remember we get Kyren or Puka off the waiver wire a couple years ago. There's nobody like that, at least I think. But the next guy, I think he could be super impactful for the Cleveland Browns run game. You want to talk a little bit about Dylan Sampson and what he had to deliver against the Browns?
Yeah.
The Bengals.
Dylan Sampson, looked really solid. Just having 12 carries for 29 yards, which is not like a ton of value, but
Right.
it's the fact that the offense is not good and he's getting
12 carries.
12 carries.
In a close game.
Yeah.
And I think the next stat is even more ridiculous.
That's what I was about to get to. 8 receptions for 64 yards.
Now, before you get deeper into this, we know Quinshon Judkins is probably going to be back for week 2. I don't think that affects Dylan Sampson's receiving upside. I think that the Browns, obviously they're going to be playing from behind in most games. I think he is your receiving back, kind of like a prime Kareem Hunt role. 8 receptions for 64 yards. If he can even do half of this, he is a very startable flex play. Like, think about half. It's 4 for 32. That's a very startable flex play because you know he's also going to get rushing upside. He could get a touchdown here and there. 8 receptions was the most out of any running back in week 1. If I told you Dylan Sampson was going to go for 8 for 64 receiving wise in week 1, I mean, what? That's more receiving yards than Nico Collins, Amon-Ra, Justin Jefferson. It's kind of crazy.
I do have a question about these receptions, though. I didn't really watch the game too much.
Checkdowns.
Checkdowns?
Okay. But the thing is, he's very shifty in open field. He's very
Hey, there's nothing wrong with the check down back. That is where most of your points come from.
Absolutely, especially in PPR formats. I mean, you've seen Kamara done it for 10 plus years. I'm not saying he's going to be your Kamara role. And again, these are guys who are rostered in 50% of leagues or less, 32.7. So I know in our league he's rostered, so obviously we can't go out and get him. But in your league, check out Dylan Sampson, especially like Jerome Ford, 100% droppable. I don't think he'll ever be able to play in your starting lineup. A, he looked horrible. B, they have Dylan Sampson and now Quinshon Judkins, who was better than him. Let's move on to one of my guys. Not really my guy, but he's a Patriot. It's Kayshon Boutte. Kind of surprised me. Going into the season, I wasn't big on Stephon Diggs. I was actually a lot bigger on Demario Douglas, who somehow had negative receiving yards, but still had 7 fantasy points. Shout out PPR and touchdown. But Kayshon Boutte, 6 receptions on 8 targets for 103 yards is actually his highest yard total in his whole career. But 103 yards is tied for 7th among wide receivers in week 1. Now, again, they were playing from behind. Drake May threw for almost 300 passing yards, dubbed Drake May. But Kayshon Boutte, he could be like the Quentin Johnson. There's a lot of QJs today. It could be the Quentin Johnson of this New England Patriots team. They're not a great team. They're not a bad team. They're not a great team. So they could be playing from behind a lot. I liked what I saw from Drake May to Kayshon Boutte in this connection.
I think he's definitely the sneaky guy in the offense. He's not the one that people are focused on. So he's going to see a lot of, lower cornerback play.
Absolutely. I mean, they're so low. He's not even rostered in 1% of fantasy.
He's not going to get the attention, at least right now. I mean, if he keeps this up, maybe. But it seems like he's really the go route kind of guy. See what happens. So, yeah. I mean, if that stays consistent with them being down in games, I could definitely see this.
I don't think you should waste your number one priority, like your number one waiver claim on Kayshon Boutte. But
no, I think he's definitely one of those guys that's going to give you this or 0.
Would you drop Demario Douglas for Kayshon Boutte?
Probably not, just because
Douglas more consistent,
especially in PPR format.
Yeah. So again, guys, let us know down below who you're going between. If there's something on your waiver wire, you're like, oh, do I pick up this guy for this guy? Comment down below. We're replying to every single comment and subscribe while you're down there. Next up is your nemesis.
I don't even want to talk about it.
Daniel Jones.
Some horrible things about him.
Rostered in 5% of leagues, threw for 272 yards. 22 of 29, a passing touchdown, plus 2 rushing touchdowns. That took away from Jonathan Taylor's massive week, by the way. Other stats, he ran for 26 yards and 115 passing yards. And
let me say the stat.
Say the stat, which is absolutely insane.
Every drive he led, they scored, which has not happened since in this century.
It's never happened this century.
Yeah.
That is absolutely insane. He scored a touchdown he scored on all 7 of his drives. It's just insane. And now this week he does have a tough matchup. I think he plays the Broncos, so I don't know if you're picking up Daniel Jones to start him, but if you have a guy like, I mean, if somehow you're in like a 14, 16-man league and Tua's your starting quarterback, or I don't know, Bo Nix didn't even really look that good either. Daniel Jones could be a play somewhere down the line. I just had to throw him in because he looked amazing against this Dolphins defense. Now, granted, this Dolphins defense, but he looked great.
He didn't really show off his legs a lot, which is kind of like insane. Like
Right.
Daniel Jones gets to how many points? I'm sorry.
It was pretty much like a 30-point fantasy night.
Daniel Jones, as a Giants fan, let me tell you, he got to 25 with like 60 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. So that is kind of insane that from a pocket passing perspective that he really even got there. So I mean, I hate Daniel Jones. Like it burns my heart to say this, but if the rushing upside comes back into play and he still continues to be a decent pocket passer, that's scary.
I don't know what to say. I don't think anybody thought we would have these conversations, especially in the year 2025. But I think Daniel Jones is a viable option in fantasy formats, especially where he's getting a rushing touchdown a game. I mean,
he tricked me too, bro. Don't.
If this looks like a Jalen Hurts type of performance, like if you put these stats in front of my face, except for the 272 passing yards, I don't think Jalen Hurts has ever gotten over 150 passing yards. No, I'm just playing. But this looks like a Jalen Hurts type performance. And Jalen Hurts was what, a third or fourth round quarterback. Daniel Jones is getting him off the waiver wire. And the next couple of guys are kind of deeper cuts. So before we get right into them, let's check out our sponsor of today's podcast and every single podcast. It's Dabble Fantasy. We actually hit this one last night on Monday Night Football. You can pick more or less on your favorite athletes in every single sport, especially the NFL. We're so back. Didn't have a great weekend, but I had a good Monday night. We just hit this lay, and you get a free $25. Use code AllTalkSports. You don't even have to put in a single dollar. Check them out. Link in the description. It'll say free 25. Just click it. Use code AllTalkSports. Shout out Dabble Fantasy. They are the GOATs. And talk about the GOATs. A few guys, let's just rattle off the top. We got Kareem Hunt, who's here. He's rostered in 12.3% of leagues. These guys, we don't really have to get in too much about him. He had 5 carries for 16 yards, whatever. That's really not what you're going to look for at Kareem Hunt. You're kind of looking at the PPR upside. He had 2 catches for 10 yards, total of 7 touches, whatever. His usage was whatever, 17% snap shares, his lowest actually since he's been suspended. But he did get his fair share of play next to Isaiah Pacheco.
He'd be a good bye week back. You'd hope for a rushing touchdown and 2 catches.
Yeah.
Like, perfect.
Yeah, a nice little 10 points, and then you can go ahead against your next guy.
Calvin Austin, which I was a huge fan of watching because I don't think it's going to be consistent, but I liked what I saw. It was very exciting. 4 for 70 and a touchdown. And he looks like, sorry, I don't know why I'm getting excited about Calvin Austin right now. I think it's because I have him in Dynasty. But last year with Russell Wilson, because I ended up having to watch a couple of those games. He was always beating his defender a lot of the times, which is very insane to me that now, seeing that last year and now Aaron Rodgers comes in, he's catching the deep balls and scoring off of it. I think it's just something that, I mean, he's rostered 2.4% in your league.
Right.
After this week, he scored 20. If he's not on roster, at least 15%, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, Calvin Austin, you pretty much know what you're going to get. He's a speed threat. Like, he's a speed threat receiver now playing with Aaron Rodgers. We'll see how it goes. I don't think he'll be a priority ad, but he could. Maybe DK gets a little tweak. I think he is the wide receiver 2 on this team, Calvin Austin. So next up, the wide receiver 2 on the Tennessee Titans. Again, we're just speed running these last couple of guys. Alec Ailmanor is kind of some guy that I had on my radar prior to the season. Now, he only had 2 receptions for 13 yards, but the biggest thing was he had 7 targets. Now, it's the second most targets next to Calvin Ridley. I don't know. He's 6'4", 220 pounds. He's the wide receiver 2 in the Tennessee Titans. We'll see what happens. Calvin Ridley didn't look that good, but he did have the PS2 shadow. I don't know. Another flyer. Just if I wanted to get 10 guys on this list. So if Alec Ailmanor is on your roster and you have on your waiver wire and you have a deep bench, go ahead and pick him up. And the last guy we have is Mr. Brenton Strange.
Brenton Strange, yes. So I'm going to look at this from 2 different ways. One, just from this season, I think he could be a tight end option, obviously. It's one of those just, I don't have a tight end, let me hit the waiver wire.
Maybe you had George Kittle, and George Kittle's out for multiple weeks. Go ahead and get Brenton Strange.
I do want to highlight, though, that from a dynasty perspective, if you don't have him or if somehow he's on the waiver wire, I would definitely look towards this guy because the coaching staff says they love him. He improves every year, and he just looks like a solid tight end.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Evan Ingram gone, and Brenton Strange actually picked up the slack last year. I think Evan Ingram played in like only 3 or 4 games. And, I mean, week 1, he only had 60 yards, 4 targets on 60 yards. but he led the Jaguars in receiving yards. So, yeah, Brendan Strange, I think he could be a viable option at tight end, especially, maybe you have David Njoku and you're worried about Harold Fannin. Maybe you have George Kittle and he's hurt. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. Maybe like you're starting Kyle Pitts, who actually didn't look that bad this year. I mean, week 1, but it's only week 1. We'll be back for starter sits at the end of the week. Make sure you guys check out that and subscribe for more fantasy content, fellas. We're just getting started. Peace.